I have a rather unremarkable fear in that I'm scared of spiders. Millions, if not billions of people share the same fear as me, and I completely acknowledge my fear as being irrational. Other arachnophobes reading this story will find it scary, and you may also sympathise with me in regards to this. Those of you who don't have a fear of spiders, you may find this story funny or even a little silly, but there's no doubt that you'll find it strange and bizarre. It all started 12 years ago, when I was 12. I live in New Mexico, which, I know better than anyone, has its fair share of spider species. And I was in my bedroom, in a single-level house that was nestled quietly in a small neighbourhood about an hour's drive from the nearest town or city of any decent magnitude. It was late at night. I was trying to get to sleep. My parents were both asleep, and my dog was fast asleep on the floor too. I was having one of those evenings where, no matter what I did, I just couldn't quite get to sleep. I had tried and failed on a multitude of things, from counting sheep, quiet meditation, and even just fucking it all off and turning my bedroom light on to watch TV. I was now defeated and just lay there, still. Now, I don't know if it's like this for everyone, but whenever I have these nights, I never remember actually drifting off. I just kind of wake up the next morning and I'm like, well, I fell to sleep in the end. This night was like that, but different. I woke up and I did think to myself, oh, I did fall to sleep, but then I noticed it was still dark outside. I went to grab my phone but couldn't move. Sleep paralysis. This is the first and only time I've ever suffered from sleep paralysis, and I only found out what sleep paralysis was because of this night. Now I started to really panic. Like I say, in the moment I had no fucking clue what was going on. Hot tears welled in my eyes as I attempted to snap out of my unmoving state. I felt something in my stomach. Something moving. Wriggling. It was awful. I felt it crawling up my gullet and in my throat until it was in my mouth. It tasted like dirt-covered leaves. I couldn't spit it out, but it began to crawl. Hairy appendages caressing my tongue and lips. I felt it crawl onto my chest and averted my gaze down. Holy fuck. It was a fucking spider. A big bastard at that. I think it was a wolf spider, but it was hard to tell in the dark. Suddenly, I felt another in my stomach. That was coming up too. But then I felt more legs. Hundreds, all over my body. I looked down to see dozens of these spiders all over my walls, all over my body. I went to scream and choked as they began spilling out of my mouth and encasing me. And I shut my eyes tight and felt like a weight had just been lifted. I opened them. I was in my room, and it was empty. I was panting and I was sweaty, but there were no spiders. A wave of relief ran across me, and at some point, I fell back to sleep. I had suffered from a bout of sleep paralysis, a pretty tame experience at that compared to others I have read, but still, a terrifying experience, nonetheless. So, fast forward to just after Halloween this year. I think it was the 3rd or 4th of November, and I just randomly wake up in the middle of the night. I can feel something crawling on me. Now, at this point, my one-off sleep paralysis episode didn't even come to mind. It was so long ago. So at first I'm just fidgeting. Note that I'm fully able to move, but then I notice a few more wriggly parts on my covers. I'm tossing and turning now until I feel something familiar on my face and on my bare leg. I suddenly shit myself. My body is covered in goose pimples as I jump out of my bed, screaming like I've been stabbed or something. I take off my clothes and launch them at the floor and do that weird thing that arachnophobes do when a spider is on them and sort of flick my hands all over my back and neck and everywhere else. That's honest to God when one of these massive spiders crawls into my mouth. The taste. It was so familiar. Dirty leaves. I spit this spider out onto the floor, quickly grab my bedside lamp and turn it on to see it quickly scuttle beneath my bed. My mum and dad rush in, wondering what all the commotion is, and at this point, I'm just stood there, suddenly remembering my sleep paralysis nightmare 12 years earlier. I explained to my mum and dad that the spiders, which were wolf spiders as well, to add to the coincidence, had been the reason for the 24-year-old cage-fighting son screaming in a high-pitched falsetto in the middle of the night. It turns out there had been an infestation of wolf spiders, a nest, in the crawlspace beneath our house, directly under my bed, and they had all come out at night, babies I think, as the real things are big, nearly tarantula size, and these weren't quite that size. One made it into my mouth. Thankfully, none of the dozens or so found under my bed bit me, as although non-lethal, their bites can be painful and the pain can last up to nearly 2 weeks. The thing that fucks with me though is the striking resemblance between this event and my sleep paralysis. I'm not any more scared of wolf spiders than any other spider, and what are the chances of my nightmare mimicking a real-life infestation over a decade later? Is this just some strange coincidence? Could it be a glitch in the Matrix where I somehow experience the future? Or maybe I can astral project and somehow travelled further in time to experience the infestation. The more ideas I think of, the crazier it all sounds, but it was the same room and my bed was in the same place. Maybe it was a time slip. I just don't know. Like I said at the start, if you're not scared of spiders, still a crazy story, eh? If you are scared of spiders, what a crazy, horrifying story, eh? Well, have some sympathy for me. I experienced it, and let me tell you, I'm just as terrified of spiders now as I've ever been. I've probably spent the last 2 days writing and rewriting drafts of the story in an attempt to make it sound scary. When the idea first came to me to write about my phobia, I thought, as an amateur writer, that it would not only be therapeutic, but also be good practice for when I write my own fiction. To be honest, I also thought that it would be quite easy. On the contrary, it's much more difficult to make stories about phobias scary, especially for those who don't suffer from the same phobia. It's hard to really describe the raw, primal fear one feels when faced with a completely irrational fear, especially one so ludicrous as mine. Even when what happened was terrifying, it's difficult to make it sound scary when the base fear is, admittedly, so silly. I have finally decided on the way to write the story. That is, entirely as it happened, nothing added, and against my better judgment and the risk of destroying my own confidence, nothing taken away. My name is Josef, and I have a fear of storm drains. Seriously. The fear of storm drains, to give it its proper name, Phobia, is an irrational fear, like all fears. My fear stems from one of two beliefs. Number one, that I'm going to slip and fall into a storm drain, and number two, something is going to grab me from a storm drain. I think the fear stems from nightmares I had as a kid, and it's just clung to me since. Though a scene from a movie also rings a bell, but it's difficult to place my finger on exactly where this phobia stems from. Those of you reading this so far probably find this funny, but my life can be difficult living with this fear. On days, I've had to oddly change my direction of walking to avoid these drains. With friends, we've had to divert our path to avoid them. It can be tough. So, enough about the phobia and on to the events of what happened. It was a rainy February night where I lived, and I had been in the city on a date with this guy. Oh, just on a side note, I am a girl, despite the masculine sounding name I have. The date had gone horribly, nothing creepy or amiss, just genuinely awkward as me and this guy didn't seem to click over anything. We go our separate ways and I'm walking down the sidewalk. I live in a massive metropolis and the sidewalks can be extremely wide. As such, I usually don't have to worry about my phobia as much because I can just walk closer to the buildings rather than the curb. That's what I was doing this night. I'm walking up the pavement, heading towards the subway in our city to head home when I hear a taxi sound its horn and pull over on the other side of the road. The window winds down and one of my friends sticks his head out and shouts for me to get in. Like I say, it's late and it's raining, so I quickly accept the offer. The sidewalk is wide and the road wider, and the nearest crossing is a fair bit further ahead, so I decide to jaywalk. Any kids reading this, don't do that. I went to cut across the road diagonally to head towards my waiting friend in the taxi. As I stepped out onto the road, I must have walked over a storm drain. I wouldn't have even noticed had it not been for the events that happened next. I stepped off the curb and onto the road. My foot splashed in a puddle and I fell right over, grazing my knee and scraping my hands. I would have pegged this down to the fact that I was wearing high heels, but I turned back and looked and saw the storm drain. My stomach drops and my innate fear response kicked in. I began pushing myself away from the drain, further into the road. Maybe I was panicking, but in retrospect, it felt like something grabbed me. I looked at the drain and could honestly swear I could see someone in the drain. It looked like a young girl, but I only caught a fleeting glimpse. My friend had now come out of the taxi and was now quickly picking me up, chaperoning me to the taxi. I began crying and he draped his jacket over my shoulder. In the taxi, it took me a moment to calm down. I kept quiet, but I was assuring myself I only thought I saw someone, that I had fell and I was just overreacting to seeing the storm drain. That's when my friend started to talk. What he said shattered my world. He said that he had seen me fall, and as I was on the floor, he saw a grim, grey arm, skinny and withered, reach out from the storm drain and attempt to grab at my ankles. He bolted out of the taxi to come and rescue me and claimed he saw a decrepit looking girl with greasy, oil black hair, bare her teeth, yellow and finely sharpened, before disappearing, which is when I must have caught the back end of her. It wasn't all in my head. Suddenly, I began hyperventilating before falling into an all-out panic attack. I was taken home where, stupidly, I looked up stories of people living in storm drains. I couldn't find anything really. Was it a ghost? Was it a homeless girl? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure my friend is just as scared of storm drains now as I am. Hey guys, Brothers Jackson here. Something a little bit different with these phobia stories. I had the spider one for a while, and I didn't really know where to put it, and then I managed to find that one about the storm drains, and I thought, oh, I'll just make a video with those two together. Man, that second one is pretty creepy. I ain't even scared of storm drains, and that is, in fact, we don't really have big storm drains over here, so that is like pretty creepy. A story. I mean, I saw it at the cinema, and I mean, that scene was pretty grim. On a side note, pronouncing that phobia was a difficult job. I think I got it right. I ended up doing a lot of research, I googled it to check the pronunciation. I really hope I got it right. I feel like I did. I feel like I done good. Done good, man. I feel like I done good. Man. But I'm not too sure. Whatever. What a weird word. I'd never heard of that. I can say arachnophobia, but I can't say I can't. I'm not even looking at it right now. I'm trying to do that from memory, so I give up. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you're enjoying the content at the minute. If you got any ideas for videos, let me know in the comments below. Series 2 is coming to an end soon. So what that means is that I will not be uploading videos, long videos, for a couple of months whilst I prepare stories and stuff for the next video, you know, narrate videos. Do you know what, I say that, but we still got a lot of episodes to go. We're basically on episode 24 now, and we've got up to episode 50, so we still got fucking time. Yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed listening to me narrate stories for you. And like I say, if you know anything that you want in the comments below, in the comments. Thank you. Peace out, guys. Peace.